A lot of people ask me whether they should file first or they should let their spouse file first for divorce. There's a lot of different factors that go into that and as to whether you should file or your spouse should file. If you are concerned about your spouse stealing money, taking the kids, or you're in a situation where you're being harassed or physically abused, you probably want to file first. You want to be the first one to tell the court your story. And that's a big part of filing first. As the petitioner in a Texas divorce, if that's the person that files first, you're going to get to tell your story first. In any hearing that you have, you go first, you set the tone, you set the narrative, and the other spouse is going to have to respond to that. They're going to be on the defensive. So that's often a reason why people will go first and file in a Texas divorce. Some people don't want to be the person that files for divorce. Either they don't want the divorce or they may have religious reasons why they don't believe in divorce. They want the other person to be the person that files. So if you are in that boat, it's absolutely okay to allow your spouse to file first and you respond to the lawsuit. If you're the respondent in a divorce, meaning your spouse filed first and you are answering the divorce, you're defending the divorce, that can be an advantage to you because as the petitioner, your spouse and your spouse's attorney is going to have to do all of the document drafting. That can be costly. And so if your attorney is just responding and reviewing those documents and not spending the time to actually create the documents, then you are saving money in your Texas divorce. A divorce in Texas is a lawsuit just like any other lawsuit. And the first step in filing for divorce is filing what's called a petition. It's a pleading. It is a document that has information on it that identifies you and your spouse, your kids if you have any, and the grounds for your divorce. There may also be a request for things like spousal maintenance, a request that the other side pay your attorney's fees, or a request that separate property be confirmed. All of these factors will go into your Texas petition for divorce. It gets filed with the court, and then once it's filed with the court, then it has to be given a copy to your spouse. They have to be aware of it. You cannot get divorced in secret in Texas. There's a couple of different ways that this is accomplished. The first one you'll see on any TV show or in any movie is someone walks up to the other person and hands them a document and says, "You've been served." That is the traditional formal way to serve someone with a divorce in Texas. Now, if you want to surprise your spouse and you want to start a war, that's the best way to do it. Walk up and have them served by a constable or a process server in front of the kids at their work. That's a good way to start a war. We like to do a little bit differently. If it's not a situation where your spouse is potentially abusive or you don't think they'll accept the paperwork, yes, have them served. But a lot of times, a better way to start out your divorce is to present a copy of the petition to your spouse. Ask them to sign a waiver of service, which they can do themselves. They can have notarized. They can go hire an attorney and respond to the divorce. But if you're trying to keep things amicable, having them sign a waiver of service is a much better way to approach it. In Texas, there's a lot of different grounds for divorce. The primary one that most people use to get divorced is the no-fault grounds. No-fault divorce in Texas just means that the marriage is insupportable. We just can't get along anymore. We don't want to be married anymore. You don't have to have a reason. Some people think that they need to allege grounds for divorce other than no fault to get an advantage. One of the common ones is adultery. Everyone believes that if they allege adultery, they're going to walk away with everything in the marriage, or they're going to walk away with a big portion of the marital estate. That's honestly not the case. If you accuse your spouse of cheating and you can prove it, certainly it is a grounds for divorce in Texas, but In and of itself, adultery is not going to cause a big swing in a property division unless your spouse was using marital money, substantial amounts of marital money, to support their paramour. Sometimes it's a good strategy to file for a no-fault divorce, even if you have grounds such as adultery or domestic violence. In a situation like that, it is often a strategic decision to try to keep things amicable rather than start out by being accusatory. If you start out from the beginning saying, you cheated on me and you've committed violence against me, and you know that's going to trigger your spouse, it's often better to leave those terms out. Try the no-fault ground first and see how far you can get with just keeping things amicable. You can always amend your petition later to add in those grounds if you need to. A lot of times it's better to kind of keep those things under the vest and use them when you need them. So if you're considering filing for divorce and you don't know if you should be the one or if your spouse should be the one to file for divorce, it's really important to talk to a lawyer and discuss your goals, the different factors involved in your situation, and determine which way is more appropriate. There's often strategic reasons to being first or being second, and talking to a lawyer who can strategize those things with you is really important. If you live in Montgomery County, Texas, and you are considering filing for divorce, you may want to be the first person to file, because when you file a divorce in Montgomery County, there is a standing order that goes into place immediately. They are composed of standard temporary injunctions that essentially tell everyone to act like adults, don't do crazy stuff, don't hide the kids, don't spend a bunch of money. The standing order in Montgomery County includes a lot of temporary injunctions, which are prohibitions on certain behavior. That behavior are things like harassment. Neither one of you should be calling each other at all hours of the day and night or texting abusive language. The standing order also prevents either parent from taking the kids and moving them out of the county. It prevents both of you from taking money out and hiding it or making huge purchases that you wouldn't normally make in other everyday life. You don't cancel your spouse's health insurance or hide their car. All of these things are elements that we all know that we shouldn't do. We should act like adults during a divorce, but people often get a little crazy when they're going through a divorce. So we have the standing order to protect everyone, keep the status quo, and everyone act like adults. That is a particular thing in Montgomery County, Texas, and you may want to be the one that files first, because once you do, that standing order goes into place immediately and protects you.